What's up, everyone? It's Brad with the Hodl Fandom. We've had about a week or so of some really good news, and I wanted to give you my breakdown of some of the key things. Firstly, that OMI is forecasted to be $1 billion company in 2022. Number two, that more comic brands will be joining Veve. And last but definitely not least, Disney has received approval for a game-changing patent that will revolutionize the Metaverse. Let's get into it. Let's jump right into that $1 billion revenue that David, you mentioned in a newscast this past week.
It allows users to trade, buy and sell, and we will be generating over $1 billion revenue in the calendar year coming.
Just to be clear, this $1 billion is comprised of primary market sales, 2.5% secondary market fees, and possibly premium monthly subscription revenue that, as long as that's forecast to be launched in 2022. I found this really interesting for a number of reasons, and it does provide some clarity for my OMI pricing model. Now, this is interesting, to me at least, because I also worked for a small or medium-sized tech company about 11 years ago or so. And it's almost like a catchphrase when you launch a new product, will this get us to $1 billion company? It's a key milestone for a growing business. So for senior staff to say that, they don't pull this number out of thin air. They rely on financial models to do so, and I help build those models. So this number makes the OMI price model a bit simpler for the current year at least. At the time I built it, we didn't have much information on the OMI back-end numbers. But I guess you gotta love it when David you spill some good information. So with my model, it allows the users to select and guesstimate where you think the OMI price will go based on a number of customizable variables. I do calculate revenue based on the inputs of the user, and it's all done on the back end. And again, this is customizable by choosing things like new licenses, marketing level, and then it calculates conversion, churn, and primary and secondary market sales. We ultimately do get to that revenue amount. Now, it's all behind the scenes, but we do get there. Ultimately, these are all guesses because nobody really knows of the internal plans of OMI, but David Yu does. So the beauty about all this is he takes all the guesswork out and essentially tells us, without specifics on customers, licenses, churn rates, conversion, marketing, and all that, he essentially tells us the final answer without the specifics on all that stuff. So for OMI, this revenue number goes into their income statement, and they calculate their EBITDA, net income, and all that stuff. For us and my model, it helps calculate things like the burn and eventually the token price. Now, I have not yet rebuilt the model with the planned improvements, but when I do, I will include this $1 billion as well. I don't have a timeline on this, and it's really busy at work at the moment, so because I'm an accountant and we're going through our year-end close, plus I'm short-staffed, but I will find time eventually. What I will tell you is that I did pull up the model and I played around in the backend with the backend numbers, and I compared my revenue numbers and David's $1 billion in revenue, and his was quite a bit higher compared to my conservative inputs. Now, my choices led to a 2-cent OMI, so all else being equal, I'd say that 2 cents is too low. I'd also guesstimate that David is also planning on many more drops per week than anticipated, and maybe more revenue streams with possibly launching the monthly subscription in 2022. So ultimately, I do think my original projection is too low, but let's put a pin in this and regroup when I've had a chance to refine and analyze all the numbers. Now, let's move on to what David said in yesterday's AMA regarding that the current Marvel comic NFTs were a proof of concept.
I mean, the comic collectible was a proof of concept to see how it will run, if there's an audience for it. Definitely, the whole comic section in 2022 will be going under a new revamp again. So you'll start to see, other publishers and independents will be coming on board.
You can catch the whole AMA posted on YouTube from two of our community members, Cavell Anderson and Daniel Lee. I'll link their videos down below. Proof of concept basically means that this was a pilot project to see if this was viable. We know that it is, and David pretty much confirmed as such, seeing that we will likely see other publishers and independents joining the Veve platform. So what exactly can we expect? In the most likely category, that means Star Wars comics. They're owned by Disney and we have a strong partnership with them. In a tier below that, but still a good candidate is DC Comics. I'm sure they'll want to get their 6.5% licensor fee as well. Now, I was never really scared about the whole Palm and DC covers NFTs. Veve have proof that they have the tech and can launch these products successfully, keeping the integrity of the IPs intact, with the only issue being they sell out way too fast. So some people might say Image Comics could be the next one to come on board. I'm pretty sure you don't sign with Image Comics, you need to sign with their individual artists. Let me take 30 seconds to explain why that is the case. So it all started with a lawsuit with Steve Gerber and Marvel Comics over the rights to Howard the Duck. Ultimately, Marvel won because of a section of employment law called work for hire, meaning that as an employee of Marvel, all creations belong to Marvel. Even though Gerber lost this case, it resulted in something called the Creators' Bill of Rights, which allowed for profit sharing, not ownership, but profit sharing. Later on, great artists like Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee, and others, they didn't like the Creator Bill of Rights, as they were still getting paid similar to not so great artists. So Todd and friends created Image Comics. Now, Image has two rules. Number one, if you left Image, you can take your IPs with you. Number two, Image does not interfere with what you write, how you write, or anything a part of your creative process. Image Comics is more like a publisher or distributor of comics. Now, that is why you can see The Walking Dead and Sandbox with a partnership. They haven't signed with all of Image Comics, and I suspect that Sandbox just made a deal with Robert Kirkman himself. So when David Yu said independents joining Veve, he could have been referring to the independent IPs published and distributed by Image Comics. Now, who are those? Well, their flagship character, Spawn, has to be a part of that list. There's a number of great comics that are published by Image Comics. Stray Dogs is one that I haven't read, but Comics and Crypto recommended this. They're very knowledgeable about comics, so if it has their stamp of approval, it's gotta be good. Anyways, these are the artists that could be a part of the independents that David was referring to. Whoever joins Veve, it's exciting times for comic fans and collectors. Really, given our user base growth and the instant sellouts, I don't know who wouldn't want to be a part of the Veve platform. Finally, let's touch on Disney's game-changing patent. On December 28, 2021, the US Patent and Trademark Office granted Disney with a patent for what's called the Virtual World Simulator using a technique called simultaneous localization and mapping, or S.L.A.M for short. What this basically does is it allows augmented reality, but without goggles, glasses, or headsets, or phones. This will be connected to Disney's foray into the Metaverse. As a Veve NFT holder, that's big. Number one, Ecomi is a strategic partner with Disney. They didn't just pay a fee to use the licenses, they're a partner. And it's hard not to imagine that there's some connection here. Now, Veve's Disney NFTs are made of top quality 3D. They're Metaverse ready and S.L.A.M tech ready. Now, why hasn't Veve mentioned anything, but Disney is talking about all this? Well, Veve have chosen to keep their cards close to the chest, and Disney needs to kind of spill the beans to get back consumer confidence, or investor confidence rather, after a pretty bad Q4 call last month. Regardless of all this, as a Veve NFT holder, this is big, as imagine showing people your NFTs without a phone, goggles, or glasses. If this tech can get mass produced at a reasonably low cost, it's like Star Trek with a holodeck. You know, I know it's a long shot, but say in 5 years, you can have people over and show friends that Todd that's worth like 100K, or a Throg that's worth 10K. Anyways, I thought that was pretty cool because many people are taking the goggles or the PC approach to the Metaverse. Disney is taking this to a whole new level and is the only one going with this type of tech, and it makes me even more bullish on our partnership with them. So that's it for the news that stood out to me for this past week, but I do have one last note. I've got a new segment calling up called the Versus series. If you've been following my channel, you know that I like to go into the comics and the characters and the stories in a bit more detail. Now, I'm going to truncate that just a little bit and then pit two comics versus each other to see what is the better buy right now on the Veve platform. Now, this is completely subjective, but I will be using my comic market cap dashboard, upcoming events, real world values, and other things to determine the outcome. I thought this was a good way to shake things up and cover more comics at once. I also split the current Veve comic population into 4 sections, kind of like a March Madness bracket, with the first grouping of the Grails and Low Editions, then the Silver and Bronze Age comics, then the Spider bracket, and then finally the Modern Marvel bracket. Let's see where this goes, and I hope to see you guys there. Like I said, I am pretty busy at work over the next couple of weeks, so videos will be a bit slower than normal. Anyways, thanks for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing. I'll see you in the next video.